The aim for today is that students will be able to solve equations with 2 steps. The vocabulary is just like yesterday. An equation is a statement that 2 expressions are equal, represented by the sign equals. Inverse operations are operations that undo each other. The following operations are inverses: addition and subtraction, multiplication, division, squares, and square roots. To solve means to determine what number or numbers the variable represents. Here are the key points. To solve an equation, use inverse operations and the backwards order of operations starting at the bottom. So you're going to undo addition and subtraction first, then undo multiplication and division second. Your goal is to have the variable by itself on one side of the equal sign. Any operation that you do on one side of the equal sign, you must do on the other side. So let's look at some examples. The directions tell us to solve each equation for x. My first step is to draw my dotted line to separate the left side of the equation from the right side. Next, I'm going to look at what operations I have. Well, I have an invisible multiplication and addition. I know that I do the order of operations backwards when I'm solving, so I'm going to undo the addition first. To undo addition, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equation. Positive 4 minus negative 4 minus 4 cancels out. That gives me 0. So I have 5x equals 9 minus 5, which is 9 minus 4, which is 5. Now I want to get rid of the invisible multiplication, so I divide both sides of the equation by 5. 5 divided by 5 cancels out, and I have x equals 5 divided by 5, which is 1. So my answer is x equals 1, and I could plug it back in to double check to make sure that it works. Let's look at the next one. I have negative 6x minus 2 equals negative 20. Same thing, I want to get rid of this subtraction first, then deal with the multiplication. Since this is subtraction or negative, I'm going to add 2 to both sides of my equation. These cancel out, and I have negative 6x equals negative 20 plus 2, which is negative 18. I divide both sides of the equation by negative 6 in order to undo the multiplication. These cancel out, and I have x equals negative 18 divided by 6, which gives me 3. Next, 5 equals negative x plus 10. There's an invisible 1 here, so this is really negative 1 times x plus 10. What I want to do first is get rid of this addition. So I'm going to subtract 10 on both sides. These cancel out, and I have 5 minus 10, or 5 plus a negative 10, which is negative 5, equals my negative 1x. To undo the multiplication, I divide both sides by negative 1. These cancel out, and I'm left with x on this side. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 gives me positive 5, because a negative divided by a negative is positive. 3 more examples. We have x divided by 5 plus 1 equals 7. Same thing I do with the addition or subtraction first. I have plus 1 here, so I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. These cancel out, and I have x divided by 5 equals 7 minus 1, which is 6. To undo this division, I need to do the inverse operation by multiplying. I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 5. These 5s cancel out, and I'm left with x equals 6 times 5, which is 30. Next one, this looks complicated, but it's the exact same steps. Now, this is a little tricky because I look here and it seems like this would be subtraction, but I actually want to look at the sign in front. The sign in front is positive, so this is actually addition here. So to undo this operation, I'm going to subtract 0.5 from both sides. Do the operation that's in front of the number that you're trying to undo. So these cancel out, and I have, becomes a negative. Negative x divided by 3 equals negative 1.5 minus 0.5 is the same as plus a negative 0.5. So negative 1.5 plus negative 0.5 gives me negative 2. Now, this negative could go with the x or it could go with the 3. Either way, it doesn't change the problem. It's going to be easiest for me if I put it here with the 3. Then to undo this division, I just multiply both sides by negative 3. That gets rid of the negative and the 3. So these cancel out, and I'm left with x equals negative 2 times negative 3, which is positive 6. Last example, negative 16 equals negative 4x plus 16. Undo the addition first by subtracting on both sides. Negative 16 minus 16, or plus a negative 16, gives me negative 32 equals negative 4x. Remember, I'm getting the x by itself, so I want to undo this invisible multiplication by dividing by negative 4 on both sides. These cancel out. Negative 32 divided by negative 4 gives me positive 8 equals x, and there's my answer. Now it's time for you to practice.